There we are.
Hello.
Okay, do we have everybody?
I believe we do. We have, this is Group 1. This is the Board of Assessors, Board of Health, Stow Housing Authority, and the Randall Library Trustee Group.
Yes. Okay, good. All right, we'll do them first, and everyone's here, and Lenny's all set.
Yes. And we're live.
All right. We are live. Good evening. Welcome to the 2020-22. There was too many 20s in there. Virtual Stow Candidates Night, hosted by the Stow Independent and Stow TV. I'm Cindy Bremer from the Stow Independent, and with me is Jonathan from Stow TV. Jonathan.
Good evening, and welcome to the second Stow Independent and Stow TV's Candidates Night. Unfortunately, we are again needing to do this virtually. Hopefully, we can have an in-person event next year, but this is being broadcast live over Stow TV channels, as well as YouTube and Facebook. Cindy has collected questions for our candidates, actually in particular the candidates for Select Board, and she will be asking them during this program. We are able to take questions through the comments on the social sites, YouTube and Facebook. We will try to include them tonight, but please understand if we are unable to get to them all. We have no questions right now for any of the uncontested positions. So if anybody would like to ask them a question, now's the time to do it. For more information on these candidates and the issues that they will be addressing, please subscribe to the Stow and Bolton Independent and see what's airing on the Stow TV government channels. That's Comcast 9, Verizon 33. The schedule is also on stowtv.org. And you can also check out the YouTube site. All the meetings and public interest videos are on there. We want to thank tonight's candidates for making the time to be available, as well as their willingness to step up and serve to help make Stow the great town that we all enjoy being part of. So welcome again to our second annual Candidates Night, and I apologize in advance for any glitches that may very well occur. Thank you.
And hopefully I'm not one of those glitches. but one never knows. Thanks, Jonathan. So for the format for tonight is pretty simple. It is the same as what we did last year. We will introduce the candidates first, the uncontested candidate in two groups. There'll be the first group will come up. They will take a minute to each introduce themselves and talk about their candidacy. And when that first group is done speaking, then we will open it up to questions. So if you do have questions for that first group, it will be, let me see, Tom Ryan running for Board of Assessors, Mary McDowell running for Board of Health, Abby Morgan running for Stow Housing Authority, Morgan, Hillman, Andy Riker, and Rachel Flaherty running for Randall Library Trustees. So if you have questions for any of those folks, feel free to post them on either the YouTube channel or on the Facebook feed, and we'll be able to get to those once they are done with their introductions. The second group of candidates will be Jim Salvi for moderator, Karen Kelleher for planning board, and Leah Viverito for Stow school committee rep to Neshoba Regional. There had been a contested race, but Keeley had decided to withdraw her papers. So it is now an uncontested race, and Leah, who is the incumbent, is the only one running in this race. So if you have questions for those three, once they've made their introductions, then you're welcome to also ask questions of any of those three candidates. So with that, we will get started. Jonathan, we're going to bring in Tom Ryan, Mary McDowell, Abby Morgan, Morgan Hillman, Andy Riker, and Rachel Flaherty. And Jonathan's performing his magic behind the screen to get everyone. And here we are. There we go. It's like the Wizard of Oz. Okay, hello and welcome to all of these candidates. This is the first group that we'll see, and it looks as though Mary McDowell from Board of Health has not made it. So we will just soldier on. The first candidate to speak tonight will be Tom Ryan. Tom?
Well, good evening. I'd like to thank the Stow Independent and Stow TV for organizing tonight's candidate night and for everybody's attendance who's here. I'd also like to thank all the candidates for coming forward. These dedicated volunteers keep our form of government working. Thank you very much to all of you. My name's Tom Ryan, and I'm running for Stow Board of Assessors because I'm committed to and care about our town, the people that live here and the people who serve our town. Having lived in Stow for almost 30 years with my wife and my daughters, Stow's become our home, and I want it to remain a great place to live. I've been serving the town for almost 25 years, on the FinCom for 9 years, the school building task force for a year and a half, and most recently 10 and a half years on the Board of Selectmen. I've had the privilege of working with some great people with varied points of view, and during this time we faced a number of difficult issues, but managed to work through them with respect and dignity. In short, I know Stow. I'll put forward the same effort and dedication to the Board of Assessors that I've put into my prior positions in the service of Stow. And I'll give everybody what they would hope for. In closing, really, please remember to attend town meeting on Saturday, May 14th, and vote on Saturday, May 21st, and show your support for all the candidates that have selflessly volunteered to run for public office. I respectfully ask for your support and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. All right, next up is Abby Morgan. Abby is running for Stow Housing Authority. Take it away, Abby.
Hi, thank you also to everyone who's helped put tonight together, and thank you for everyone for being here. I'm Abby Morgan. My pronouns are she, her. I moved to Railroad Ave in Stow in 2013. I have a Master's of Art Education, and I've taught all ages. In 2020, I founded the Neshoba Area Social Justice Alliance and have served as president for the past 2 years. I grew up in a small town in Vermont, so Stow was immediately appealing to me. A month before closing on our house, I was diagnosed with chronic cancer and had to stop teaching for a few years. So we are now a single income household much like many of the people who seek out affordable housing in our community. Depending on the source, median home prices in Stow have increased 27% to 35% since 2019. If I tried to buy my house now, I couldn't afford it. This is familiar to anyone in Stow interested in downsizing, single-parent families, or young adults looking to find their first home. While this is my first time running for public office, as NASTRA president, I have already met and developed positive relationships with many members of town government and town groups. If elected, I aim to be an open listener while exploring how the Stow Housing Authority can continue to support the residents of our beautiful town. So thank you again for having me here tonight and for everyone who helped put this night together.
Thank you, Abby. Great. All right. Next up, we have the 3 candidates for Randall Library trustee, and we're going to start with Morgan Hillman.
Hello. Thank you so much for hosting this tonight. I'm Morgan Hillman, and I'm running for Randall Library trustee. My husband and I, along with our 2 dogs, moved to Stow in 2019, and we are so happy to be part of this very special town. I've spent my career in book publishing. I'm currently at HarperCollins Publishers. I've served on the board of the Boston chapter of the Women's National Book Association for several years now. And last summer, I happily stepped into a vacant library trustee appointment. I'm an avid reader and a champion of libraries as community centers for gathering, for fostering curiosity and learning. And I also jumped at the chance to represent the trustees as part of the library building committee, helping to form a plan for a new and improved, safe, accessible, and beautiful library for our residents of all ages and backgrounds to enjoy. I'm eager to see this project through and to continue developing relationships with others serving the town, and intend to advocate on behalf of the library to help it flourish alongside our growing and changing community needs. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, and I look forward to meeting everyone someday. Thank you so much, and see you at town meeting and at the polls next month.
Great. Thanks, Morgan. Okay, and last of the library trustees is Rachel Flaherty. No, I'm sorry. Andy, did you go first? No. Andy, I skipped right over you.
That's all right.
Apologize, Andy. You can go now.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. I was also appointed a library trustee last July, which was very exciting. My first job in junior high school was also as a page at my local library in Connecticut, so that's pretty fun. I've been reading and I've been in the libraries ever since, so it's been a heck of an experience. For my time so far in the trustees, the board of trustees, I've bolstered the library's involvement with the Council on Aging, which has actually been very interesting. I've never toured the council before, and this was my opportunity, and I took hold, and we've really got a great relationship going, and I look to make that even better in the future. For anyone that's been in the library recently, especially the children's section, you can understand why we have this revitalized Randall committee going forward strong. So we really hope that we can move that forward as well, and try to work on that. So those are my 2 priorities when I continue on as trustee, if I continue on as trustee, and I look forward to your support. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. All right. Now, I'll double check. Rachel, you are next. Rachel Flaherty.
Hi, thank you everybody for being here. I'm so glad to be here. My name is Rachel Flaherty. Me and my family have been living in Stow for the past 5 years or so. So having young children and being an avid reader myself, the Randall Library has served as an invaluable hub for both me and my family. So my intention in running for library trustee is to be able to give back to both the library and then the larger community as a whole.
Looks like we lost her.
Uh-oh. Okay, Jonathan, are you up? Is she back?
You're back? All right,
Okay.
keep going.
Okay, and I'm just excited to use that diverse skill set to help elevate and grow the Randall Library over the next term.
All right. Thank you, Rachel. We appreciate We appreciate everybody who's running, who's taking the time to step up to run for any kind of town service is great. Jonathan, do we have any questions that you can see?
Nope, everybody's sold already.
All right. Okay. Well, if everybody's all set there, we're going to move on to the next group. Jonathan's going to bring up the magic screen and make everyone disappear. Just like that. That was good timing, Jonathan. Had that planned. And the next group coming up is Jim Salvi, who's running for moderator, Karen Kelleher for planning board, and Leah Viverito for Stow School Committee rep from Neshoba. All right. Hello, everybody. Jim, we're going to have you speak first. Jim is running for, as I said, for moderator, and here's Jim.
Yep, Jim.
Jim,
you're on mute.
Unmute yourself.
Somebody had to do that once tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for getting that over with. We appreciate it.
Thank you to the Stow Independent and Stow TV for putting this together and for the opportunity to speak tonight. And thanks to everyone who's running and who's attending. My name is Jim Salvi, and I've been involved in Stow town government consistently for the past 17 years as a member of the Finance Committee and on the Select Board. I've been a lawyer for 36 years, and I'm pretty used to thinking on my feet. All that being said, I think the role of moderator is pretty unique, and I'm not sure if anything really prepares you for it completely. Town meeting and its pure form of democracy are what makes local government in New England special. I've lived in 3 towns in Massachusetts and attended town meeting at all of them. And I think that what makes Stow town meeting special is that it is consistently professional and respectful. That has come at least in part from the tone set by our moderators, and I hope to carry on that tradition. It's also achieved through the impartial enforcement of the rules that we have in our bylaws, town meeting time, and traditions. The goal is that everyone who wants to be heard should be heard, but ultimately the will of the majority must prevail. I think I can preside impartially over town meeting, implement those rules, and hopefully find that balance and set the right tone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to serve the town in this new way, and I ask for your vote on May 21st and see you at town meeting on the 14th. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, next up we have Karen Kelleher. She is running for the planning board, incumbent.
Hi, as Cindy said, I'm Karen Kelleher. And thank you, Cindy and Jonathan, for pulling this together. I've lived in town for 43 years, raised our 2 sons here. I worked for the town for 33 years, starting as a part-time secretary to the planning board and eventually retired as the town planner. After a year of retirement, I returned to staff the Zoning Board of Appeals part-time, which I am still doing now, and then was elected to the planning board. I'm now finishing up my 5-year term. I believe I have the knowledge and experience specific to Stow to be an asset to the planning board and the town as a whole. The town is at an important crossroad with some major developments on the horizon. There's a fine balance in shaping that development, recognizing property owner rights, protecting abutters, and preserving open space, natural resources, and providing for diversity in Stow's housing stock. I will diligently work to strike that balance. We're also in the throes of several planning efforts, including Lower Village, Gleasondale, Town Center, Track Road. I will work hard to help bring those efforts to fruition in a manner that protects the character of Stow, which is the reason I believe that most of us live here. I thank you for all of your support over the years, and I look forward to seeing you at town meeting and at the election. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Karen. All right, Leah, you are up next.
Okay, thank you so much. Hello to everybody, and thank you to Stow TV and the Stow Independent for hosting this very important forum. My name is Leah Viverito, and I am seeking re-election to the Neshoba Regional School Committee. I've served on the committee for the last 3 years, and I currently act as the chairperson. Throughout this time, I've tried to leverage my energy and my experience to make our schools stronger. And in every decision I make, I stay true to my core values. They are integrity, transparency, and equity. My main goal now and going forward is to continue to help all of our kids be successful in school. So because my time is limited, I'd like to inform you that if you'd like to learn more about my background and my experience, you can go to my website, and it's at voteviverito.com. Thank you, everybody, again, very much, and I hope you will vote for me once again on May 21st.
Leah, we have a question from YouTube. Let me put it up. Can you read that? Okay.
I can, yeah. So the question is about the new, the Neshoba High School building project, and they want to know my thoughts on it. So do I have limited time here?
You can take a couple of minutes. You're all set. We have,
Okay.
I think only one more comment came in so far. So go ahead
Okay.
and get a couple minutes on this.
Great. So the high school building project is a really exciting opportunity for our 3 towns. You are perhaps knowledgeable on the fact that the feasibility study is currently underway. We worked for many years to be accepted into this module of the MSBA process, and we're excited to move forward with it. So at this point in time, we're just studying what is possible, what is feasible. This will come to fruition in the end of June, so all residents can check that out. I will also do another quick plug for my website. The High School Building Committee's website is linked on my website, so you can go to that website and find out everything that has happened thus far, and there's actually been a lot happening. The design team is going to bring to the town at the end of June, we hope, suggestions on what they think we should do with our building. And so we have a few options. We can add to the current building and renovate what remains, if they believe that is the most feasible option, or we can build brand new. At the last school building committee, which was a public meeting, they did indicate that the current site is likely the most feasible site, although that is not finalized yet. So I look forward to hearing what the designers say is possible, and we will probably be bringing this to the 3 communities in the fall.
All right. Thank you, Leah. We did have another, more of a comment than anything. Somebody was looking to clarify that going back to the previous group, that the 3 library trustee candidates are going for 3 positions. There isn't a contested race. That's why they're in the uncontested portion. But just to clarify that all 3 of them are in uncontested positions. There's 3 available. So, all right. Any other questions?
I don't see any. I think we're good.
Okay. Thank you so much. We will see you as we're around, and best of luck with the rest of the campaign season here in the election. And we're going to move on to the select board.
Thank you.
And Jonathan,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. Thanks, Jonathan.
take care. So we are letting Jonathan do his thing again. And the next people coming up, this should be the biggest portion of the evening, is the select board. We have 5 candidates running for select board. Unfortunately, one of those candidates, Ingeborg Hegeman Clark, could not make it tonight. She was not feeling well, and just came down with something this afternoon and emailed me and said she just couldn't make it, unfortunately. So, but we still do have our other 4 candidates: Courtney Fresha, who is the incumbent, Katie Fisher, Lenny Golder, and Alex Riker, and they are all here. And as soon as Jonathan pops them in, what we will do is they will each have their 1-minute introduction. There are some pre-submitted questions that we'll take, and we'll ask of each of the candidates, and then we will take audience questions as well. So if we start to see a pileup of audience questions, I will stop with the pre-submitted questions and let the questions come in. Okay.
Leonard?
We lost Lenny.
And you have Karen. I don't think I should be here.
Karen, you sure you don't want another job?
Thank you, Karen.
We are missing Courtney.
Ah,
There we
There we
go.
go.
wrong. Okay.
Okay.
And there's Len. All right, you're on, Len. You're live and
Let's get the
live and
sound.
looking at the camera.
Ready?
Okay.
What do we got here?
Okay, the first one up is going to be Courtney. Oops. So, Jonathan, can you bring Courtney up? Courtney is going to make her introduction, and then we will move on to Katie
We're
after
in the
Courtney's
show.
done.
Everyone can see.
Good evening. I'm Courtney Fritcha. I'm as has been said, I'm incumbent on the select board currently. Thank you, Jonathan and Cindy, for this opportunity to speak about our passion, town government. I feel like such a geek. I moved to Stow in 1997, returning to property that belonged to my grandparents, where I played as a girl and visited often. So I have a long fondness for the outdoors here in particular, and of course the rural character, as we love to say. I'm passionate about keeping the character of Stow while moving into the 21st century, where we are taking on challenges of new ways of doing things. While I've been on the board, I've seen change in town administrator, police chief, building commissioner, fire chief, and adding an assistant town administrator. It's really an exciting time to have all this change and have new people getting excited about volunteering in government. One of the things that I love to do is work on difficult situations and finding a solution with other people, finding how to navigate those conversations and be collaborative and come up with win-win solutions. And I find that town government is great for this. And I also feel that the relationships that I've built over the years on the Conservation Commission and the Community Preservation Committee have stood the test of whatever has come up in our conversations, which I value greatly. I think it's credit to our town that the volunteers are generally able to have civil discourse and respectful debate, and that we stand for that. So one of the roles of the select board as the chief operating members of the government is to represent the town and to kind of set the tone. I think we're in the position that if we, for instance, weren't civil, it would suggest that it would be okay for others not to engage in civil discourse. So one of the core things that I stand for is that we navigate our investigations of how to collaborate and how to move forward in a civil manner. I feel as though I've gotten a little momentum. I've gotten some understanding being on the select board for 3 years, and I'd like to remain and continue to work on the things we're working on. It's a very interesting time with all the challenges we've had, change in staff, and it's just really exciting. I think our new town administrator is great, and she's getting us to be transparent and technological, and at the same time, how do we keep, our historic architecture and how do we energize our lower village, and how do we manage this without raising taxes higher than than people.
Yeah. All right. We're going to have to move on to the next person. Thank you, Courtney. Katie, you're up.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Also, it's really important that people have access to town government and know what's going on. So I really appreciate you guys putting this forum together. During the COVID period, it was devastating to a lot of people because they didn't have access to a lot of information. And I think that Denise coming in and putting so much online has done a phenomenal job of getting people informed. It's really hard for the volunteers in town to get information, especially when you have to do it through a Zoom meeting. And I'm very excited that we've reopened a lot of our boards so people can actually sit and participate and talk to the board members and the volunteers on a one-to-one level before and after meetings sometimes, so they understand what's going on in the whole town government. I've been involved in Stow since 1990, I think. I ran for Charter Commission, and that was the first televised debate, which is pretty scary. So the world's come a long way since then and changed a lot. And today I see the same problems, but from a different angle. We're in a world right now where, with all the changes, with the shutdowns, the access to things like home offices, commuting, it's all changed dramatically. And talking to the younger workers, a lot of them are staying home. I'd say out of the people I sell houses to, 2 out of the 4 people plan on staying home to work, working remotely. So access to a lot of services has become much more important. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. All right. Next up, Lenny Golder.
Is this the introduction or
Yes, the 1-minute introduction.
It's only 1 minute. Okay.
Well, yeah.
More or less.
Sounded like longer than a minute. That's why I was wondering what it was. Well, all right. I'm Len Golder, and I'm running for selectman. And I've lived here for over 32 years now. And just about most of those years, I've volunteered in town government. I started out actually being on the select board for 2 terms. I've been on the planning board for 15 years. I was on the library committee, cable committee. The past few years, I've been on the zoning board of appeals and the board of assessors. And in addition to that, I've done a lot of volunteering whenever we've had like intertown agencies or workforces with other towns or with regions. And so that's given me a perspective of some of the things that work in other towns and some of the things that don't work in other towns. So is my minute up or something?
No, that is not. That was actually my phone. My apologies.
Oh, that's okay. No worries. So, I've gotten a perspective not only from being on the select board, but from being on other boards and how other boards see the select board. And one of the things I've heard from time to time from other boards is, that they wish the select board would communicate more with them. I think we should return to what we used to have, joint boards, so that we could communicate and collaborate better together on issues that are facing the town. So I have that experience, and given the fact that we're going to have 3 openings, 2 vacancies on the board, I think it would be helpful to have somebody that has some long-term experience, not only on the select board, but from other boards as well. In addition to that, my work history has given me some perspectives as well. I'm an attorney. I've also been a public administrator, an arbitrator, social worker. I'm about to say bottle washer. I actually used to wash dishes for a scholarship when I was in high school. So I guess I've done that too. I've done sales. I've worked in the private sector. I know how the business world works as well as the public sector. And I think those perspectives are important too. And, what I'd say is, I think I have the knowledge of the past. I have an understanding of the present. And I'd like to think that I have some kind of vision for the future. And I think that those kinds of skills would be helpful in a time when I think we should have at least some continuity of leadership on the board. So thank you.
Thank you, Len. Thank you, Len. All right, and next up and last is Alex Riker. Hello, Alex.
Hello, thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, everybody, for putting this on. I'm Alex Riker, and I'm running for an open seat on the select board. My family and I moved here last year, my wife, Lauren, my son, Ari, and my dog, Cam, and we absolutely have fallen in love with the town. We came for a visit to see the house that we ended up buying and then had a lunch at Nan's, and we knew that this was where we would like to raise our children and live the rest of our lives. Once we purchased our house and moved in, we knew that we would be here for many, many years, and we decided as a family that we wanted to get involved and dedicate our time to making sure that this town not only stays beautiful and charming, but also help it grow in the sections that it needs to, like the lower village. I'd like to run to be able to bring some diverse thoughts to the board. I'm younger than some of the candidates. I have a different background than many. I'd like to bring those thoughts and ideas to the board in order to make sure that we can grow the parts of Stow that need to grow and preserve the parts that need to be preserved to keep it the great town that it is. I have a business background. I went to Bentley University and graduated with a marketing degree from 2008 to 2012. I have spent the past 10 years in various software marketing and sales roles. And I currently am working for a company in which we sell software to the office of the CFO. I'd like to bring that business background to the board in order to help make responsible decisions in terms of how we're spending our tax dollars. I would like to be able to help grow the town in a responsible way so that we are not needlessly spending on certain items that could end up taking away from other projects. Lastly, I'd also like to be able to bring transparency and communication to the board. Having grown up in an era of when social media was introduced, I have an understanding of how we can really cast a wide net and get more participation in the town government across all of the boards. I'd like to bring that communication skill, that transparency to the select board and hopefully bring it to all of the boards within the town government. So I'm running. I love this town. I want to preserve everything that's beautiful about it and make the parts that need help grow. Really, I've said this on my website, letsgostow.com. Really, at the end of the day, I'm running for our children. I would like to run so that when our children go out into the world, go off to college, get a job, all they're thinking about is that one day they want to return to this beautiful town that we all live in and raise their children here. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Alex. Okay. I'm not seeing any questions yet on, we do have one. All righty. Morgan, who asked, how many seats on the select board remain filled with the 2 open seats now? I think she's referencing the fact that Zach Burns has stepped down from his role as select board, so there is a vacancy there. That was unfortunately they were not able to get that position onto this current ballot. It was just a matter of timing. So there will be an additional, that vacancy will remain until there is an election, which may be late June. It may be in the early fall. It sounds like it could be with the primary election. So that hasn't been decided yet. But so there will be 2 positions that are filled. Courtney is currently holding one of those positions, and then we will have a 3rd position that will be elected after this election. So I think that was that.
Laura Reiner, my neighbor. She asks, thank you all for running. In your opinion, what is the single biggest issue facing the select board in the coming year? And what specific experience do you bring to bear on that issue?
Okay, and we're going to go to Courtney first. Courtney, I think you're muted.
There we go. That's twice. So maybe, again, I can bless everybody else with not having to do that. We are working hard currently to bring a lot of policies that were either unwritten or out of date up to date. And that's continuing. It's a useful thing to have solid policies on events, one-day events, use of alcohol on town property. Personnel policies are in good shape, I think. But that's the primary function of the select board. So it could be something that will face us in any given year. I look forward also to the workings of the we just voted to use money to explore, to do a feasibility study for water in Lower Village. And I know this is on a lot of people's mind for a lot of different reasons. I just find it really exciting. I think it's going to be interesting to see what comes up. And I really look forward to hopefully some forward motion on that. So I think that's a pretty important one.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, Katie, same question. Biggest issue facing the select board and what experience do you bring to bear?
I think the biggest issue or biggest thing that's coming forward is all the new growth with the 3 subdivisions that I know of that'll be coming on very quickly, and how to handle budgeting and organizing. I was involved way back doing the town budget from scratch with the first spreadsheet back when I was on finance committee, where we interacted with all the different departments. And Lenny mentioned the joint boards meetings, and we did them quarterly, which was great. So we interacted with all the different departments. And I think we had more participation from the citizens back then to understand how things would affect them and the schools. So things have changed a little bit. I've worked in all areas of town government in Stow and other towns. So I have an understanding of things like the water issue that you mentioned, which is for the Lower Village, but we also have a big problem with PFAS that needs to be addressed, and some other issues. So a lot of things are going to change. So I go to most of the meetings to get an idea of what's going on in town. So I bring that, I'm an informationaholic, that information to the table and talk to all ages, which I think is a big thing right now, because we have a lot of young families moving into town and they need services as well. And I love Stow, and I want it to stay as much like it can be right now, while still bringing the services we need and water problems, getting them solved. So basically, if there's a question to be asked, I usually know where to go to for the answers, even if I don't know the answer.
Thanks, Katie. Len?
Yeah. If I'm going to pick 2 issues that I see in the foreseeable future, because, well, one of them is an ongoing one anyway. Budgeting is always an issue. I think it's important to maintain fiscal stability and responsibility. We have a lot of projects that people want, a lot of new things that people would like to see, and that's not necessarily bad. But I think these projects have to be managed in such a way that they're done over a process, so that we don't get hit like with a whole bunch of projects that are going to upend taxes, in a given fiscal year. The proverbial frog that's get eaten through the snake, and you get this big bulge. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we want to try to avoid in terms of fiscal management, so that we can keep taxes reasonable. I'm not myopic enough to believe that we're ever going to be able to cut taxes. I did try that one year when I was chair of the Stow board. But if we can at least keep taxes down so that they're not so high that we're going to be driving people out of town. We have a very beautiful, diverse community in terms of intergenerations of people with children and older people, and I'd like to keep that diverse, mix in town. Certainly to provide the services, but to do it in a fiscally stable way. And the other issue, and I think Katie mentioned it, is water. That's always been an issue since every board I've been on, in terms of the possibility of bringing water to the lower village. If it's going to be done, it's going to have to be done without the town getting into the water business. We just, in town government, we don't have the expertise to run a water company, and I don't want to see the town encounter any kind of liability from anything that might happen from a water company. But we can be the kind of protagonist, that gets the lower business community together, meets with potential water companies. Possibly, if there's a need, we might be able to rent out some kind of infrastructure for a leasehold agreement, but with an indemnity so that we're not responsible for any issues that might occur. I mean, that's one possible scenario. It's something we should explore. It's not the only reason or the only problem with bringing business into the lower village. I've talked to business people that have left town. I know there are other issues as well, but it is an issue. And if it's something that we can be a facilitator of, not the actual doer of it, but the facilitator, I think that's something worth exploring as well.
All right. Thank you, Len. Alex, same question to you. Single biggest issue facing the select board and what experience you bring.
Yes, I think that the single biggest issue is how the town is going to continue to grow and how we can attract more businesses to come to town and how we can manage it in a reasonable way, so that our taxes can remain lower, and how we can spend reasonably to grow in those new zoning sections so that we are not spending outrageous amounts of money. I think that the biggest thing that we can do is come together as a town to have a clear vision. We currently have an outdated master plan. We need to get together as an entire town and have a clear vision, a business plan to see and show everyone, this is what we want Stow to be. This is where we are heading. Once we have that, then we can take a look and start to attack each project within it. So I really think that it's about coming together, having a vision, and then spending responsibly, as Lenny was saying, as Kitty was saying, as Courtney was saying, to grow the town. The lower village is clearly, from all of my conversations with everybody that I've spoken to, the lower village is top of mind for everyone. The water issue is an issue. We need to address it. We need to take a look at it, but there are other issues. We need to work as an entire community, and I think that the select board needs to take leadership and take charge to attract new businesses to engage with the owners of the properties in the lower village in order to make sure that those buildings are occupied with the types of businesses that the entire town would like to see. Really, it's a talent acquisition issue right now. We need to bring in thriving businesses like Nan's. We need to make sure that we have utilities like the grocery store. We need to make sure that Shaw's is not going anywhere. And we need to do it responsibly, with responsible spending. We need to come together as a town and utilize our resources, our collective brain power, and not throw away money to consultants left and right just because that's the way that it's always been done. So I'd like to bring the town together on the select board and get a master plan together and spend reasonably to grow Stow. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. I think we've got a couple of more questions coming in online, and then I have some pre-submitted questions that I'm going to turn to next, and then we'll go back to the online questions. But I do want to remind people that we need to keep our answers, because there are 4 of you. We do want to keep the answers to about a minute. We go a little bit over. It happens. Otherwise, I think Jonathan's going to be able to bing you or do something really mean.
I'll say a minute.
He's just gonna stop you. He'll put up the screen again. Just to remind people, I know it's hard once you get on a topic, and these are really important topics, but just try to bear in mind that we do need to get through, there's a bunch more questions and 4 of you, so we want to keep going. So, okay, next question. And of course, I just already lost track of who was first up this time, but it is Katie, and I know that. Let's see. This is an interesting question that came in. Good leadership is a mix of head and heart. How do you balance these, and which do you look to when faced with a difficult decision?
Well, I have to admit, I'm an overanalyzer. So I lead with my heart, but then I pause, gather the information, and make a plan before I make a decision. So that's probably the simplest way of putting it. If you saw the volumes of media I have that I read every day, you would probably go to sleep, actually. But good information. But I think you have to work for the people first. So I really do lead with the heart. And I'm a very good problem solver. So I put the puzzle together. So hopefully my heart wins.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, next up, Len, head or heart?
Oh boy, this is like something from college English. Okay. I think both are important, but I think it gets to a larger question is how you make decisions. And, on all the boards I've served, sometimes there's been some very difficult decisions. And the way I try to resolve making a decision, is I try to find the decision or the path that will lead to the most options, so that if it turns out not to be the right path, that we have some leeway to correct it and go on a different course. I mean, think of Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken. Well, I guess I kind of look at both roads could be taken, sort of like what Yogi Berra said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. That's my philosophy. You take the path that gives you the most options, and you have the most ability to make adjustments, if things aren't working the way you had, or worst case scenario, if you have to retreat back and go on a totally different path. So I guess, that may be sort of a head-oriented approach, but at the same time, I think you have to have a heart in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. I guess that's the signal to end my time here. Okay.
Sure. Thanks, Lenny. Okay, Alex, next.
I think that naturally I would take a position of following my heart, but I've really, in my career and throughout my life, I've made it a goal of mine to really think with my head and make decisions with my head. I have a decision-making process when I go through anything. I like to take notes. I like to get all the ideas out on paper. I like to collect as much information as possible. I like to get advice from everybody that I can get advice from before I make a decision. So I think that naturally it's with the heart, but really it's with my head that I make decisions. And I think that with my experience in sales and marketing, I have a lot of experience of making proposals and getting to the second level needs of my clients. And that's, I think, what we need to do on the select board. We need to get out there, speak with all of the citizens of Stow, find out exactly what is important to them, find out exactly what we need, what everybody in the town like, and then come together and have those collective needs and have a vision, so that when we're making a decision, we can use our head with that in mind.
All right. Thank you, Alex. And next up, Courtney.
Definitely heart. So I like to gather information, though, like Katie. I really like to listen and hear as many points of view as I possibly can. And I find that listening is both fascinating and wonderful and really useful. And so I'd say my head informs my heart, but my heart knows. And I like to speak from my heart, and it's all love is the answer. But really I think we're all on the same page that we have to be analytical, but you know, we know what we think is right, and that's the way I do it. That's what I stand for, is whatever I have to, because it's deep inside.
Thanks, Courtney. Okay. All right. And another one from the questions that came in ahead of time. What is your understanding of the role of the select board versus that of the town administrator? And is there anything you would change? And we're going to start with Lenny on that one.
Okay. Well, the town administrator really serves the select board. The very definition of an administrator, it's one who administrates what the select board's priorities, goals, and missions are. So each select board determines, what that role should be. Clearly, one of them that has stood the test of time from the time when we first got a town administrator, when I was on the board, is budgeting. Having a town administrator that puts together a budget is a major help. Before we had a town administrator, we literally used to have to, I can remember one of my predecessors saying, like, he, even before I came, he put all the budgeting items on his living room floor and try to piece them all together. And this was how, putting together a budget. So having an administrator that can do that is a major accomplishment. I would like to see, in terms of appointments, that it be clear that the appointment decision-making is with the select board. The administrator could, make some recommendations, but it's the town and the select board that should be the decision maker on who gets appointments, and that really is part of the charter. So in general, as I say, the daily administrative tasks should go to the administrator, but the overall policy making should rest with the select board.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Next, Alex, the question again, what is your understanding of the role of the select board versus that of the town administrator? And is there anything you would change?
Right. So I think that, the town charter really clearly states the two roles. So the role of the select board, when all 5 members are together, act as the chief executive branch within the town, and the town administrator acts as the chief operating officer, the day-to-day operations handler in the town. I think that the select board is responsible for appointing, for creating legislation, and making decisions within the town, whereas the town administrator is responsible for carrying out those decisions. I think that there is autonomy to the town administrator, and our current administrator has done an absolutely amazing job. I think that we need to enable her and give her more space to thrive, and we need to give direction, and maybe the select board can go out and be the driving force in collecting the vision for the town and sending her to do the day-to-day operations.
All right. Thank you, Alex. Next up, let's see. Am I going to get it right? Yes. Courtney. Same question?
Yeah. So as Alex kind of nailed it. Go, Alex. The select board is the executive branch. The town administrator is the chief operating officer. And, we work in concert to come up with goals for the year or for a longer term. And the select board appoints individuals to boards and committees, with a few exceptions, appointed by the moderator. The town administrator is in charge of the budget and runs the show on a day-to-day basis. We're kind of both in the hot seat, and I wouldn't change a lot. I feel as though we have currently a good working relationship and a good understanding and free and open conversation. And I think it's useful to, so currently the administrator recommends appointments to various boards and committees and other positions, and the select board votes to make that appointment. So that feels like a reasonable balance to me. There's a certain amount of work involved sometimes in interviewing a candidate for an appointment, and it's useful to have a recommendation that with some substance brought to the select board for a vote.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Courtney. Katie, you're up.
Almost everything's been covered, but I was on the original Charter Commission, and the select board, I should say, was set up to set policy, and the town administrator really is the person who gets things done and makes sure things are done in order. A good advisor, the town administrator should be. We are, as select people, I got to get that term right. We talk to the people, and we should be out understanding what the town needs and setting priorities for the town administrator. So not as long-winded, but sort of a straightforward balance. And we really shouldn't interfere dramatically with any day-to-day operations of the town administrator, because it's important that she has our support.
Good. All right. Thanks, Katie. Jonathan, do you want to take the question from Rick Lent that I see online?
All righty. Let's see. How do you see the select board helping the town meet the state's new next gen law requiring 50% of all housing be off fossil fuels and using heat pumps by 2030?
Okay, Alex, I believe you're up first.
I believe that the select board could help by possibly reaching out to companies and facilitating maybe, collective, town negotiations. So maybe there's a situation where we could have a situation where we put it out to bid for a number of homes who would like to participate. At the end of the day, I think that this is a voluntary situation. I'm hopeful that we can get to that 50% without having to do much work. I think that through innovation, through capitalism, we will see the cost of energy through renewable resources become affordable, and the market will dictate that that's going to be the way to move. I don't think that there will be much that we need to do in order to get to 50%, but if there is, I believe that the select board could be a driving force in opening negotiations for the town to cut deals, to bring people to bring bids to the town.
All right, thank you. Courtney, you're up.
So the select board authorized a Green Advisory Committee to suggest appropriate measures to move forward on meeting the new law. And between that and I'd like to support Sustainable Stow to get their resolution passed at the next possible opportunity. I believe we have some very well qualified folks in town who are guiding us toward these goals and really have their finger on the pulse. I think the planning board is talking to developers about keeping fossil fuels out of new housing, which is really useful. About, I heard DHCD asking if there were going to be plugins for cars at Stow Acres. So I think our team is already working in town, and we just need to keep doing it and not stop.
Okay, thanks, Courtney. Katie, you're up.
I actually pretty heavily involved in the Green Committee. I've been going to most of the meetings. It hits home to me very dramatically. I think we need to get people involved in talking to the different companies that produce the heat pumps and other products to make them competitive, and find a way to make it easier for citizens, particularly people who own older homes, because most of our homes are older, to be able to incorporate that in whenever they have to make a repair or a change without a major cost. And hopefully there'll be some additional programs and funding coming from the federal government and maybe the state. The Green Committee is looking into a lot of different options, but it's a big job to try and change things. And we don't want new systems going. Oh, example, today I got an oil bill, and it wasn't even close to a full tank. It was $1,000. And I think with oil prices going up so much, we actually have a big opportunity to educate people and get them involved. But we need to get the businesses to help us and the government to help find programs that can do funding to make it affordable. Because people don't do things if it's too expensive. That's the simple way of putting it. So I'm 100% behind the Green Committee in trying to get to that 50% requirement.
All right. Thank you, Katie. Len?
Yeah, well, I think this is an example where joint boards getting together can be helpful, because there's different boards involved in different aspects of this. The Green Advisory Committee can be the facilitator to this kind of a joint boards meeting, because they're in the forefront of the issue. But there's like the Planning Board, for example, which is dealing with housing, and then there'd be the Conservation Commission, which would be dealing with some other aspect of it. And so I think it's important to have some kind of joint activity. One thing that wasn't mentioned is, what we can do directly in terms of things that we have direct control over, which is our own town facilities. So those are things that we can work on directly to make sure that they're more fuel efficient and reduce the amount of carbon use, fossil fuel use, in terms of our own structures and our own buildings as well.
All right. Thank you, Len. All right, Jonathan, shall we do the next question up there?
This is kind of particular to Courtney. Given the learning curve when joining the board, what work have you started that you would be most effective to finish?
Thanks, Debbie. Well, I have to say that I have spent the bulk of spent a lot of time on the Town Hall Restoration Committee, as well as the Stow Affordable Housing Trust. And the Town Hall Restoration Project is a tricky one because the current proposal has a high expense. So I'm pretty passionate about that building and about historic buildings in general. I think there's a lot of historic preservation that we may want to look at over time in Stow. And I feel as though it's really important to find a way to preserve these spaces, which are iconic. They're when we inhabit these spaces, it's very different than a modern building. I feel as though I'm there with people from another time, and so those are all feelings, and it's a little hard to quantify how to put that in a dollars and cents perspective. And so I think there's still a bunch of work to be done. We've been talking about it on the select board and the other committees involved to find a way to come up with a project that is palatable to the town. And I'd really like to see, it's come to my attention that it would be nice to have a preservation group in town that would fundraise for historic preservation. We have collections that are becoming homeless from the library that understandably the library is a small footprint and it needs space for modern programs. And so maybe historic objects can be housed somewhere else, like the town hall. But in general, and I know there are others. There's the West School. There's the District of Gleasondale, which has wonderful historic homes and a mill, which need to be thought about. And when we get busy with all these other projects, we forget about our historic foundations and need to. I feel it's pretty important to somehow not get those. So we need to find a way to do it without breaking the piggy bank.
All right.
That's the
Thanks, Courtney. I think because that was specifically to Courtney, what I'd like to do is to ask the other three candidates about the learning curve, because that was essentially what the question was about. You know, you have the learning curve when you first get on a board, and you want that momentum to keep going for projects that you're maybe in the middle of. But that goes back to the idea of what kind of learning curve do you feel you would have for the other three candidates. And I can probably guess, but I will not take your guesses. I will let you answer. Katie, go ahead.
Oh, I've been involved for so many years. I'm not sure there's a large learning curve because I've been to most of the town meetings over the years I've been in town, and listened in and sat in on many of the meetings for the selectmen and other boards. So the policy aspect of it, I'm not sure there's a big learning curve, to tell you the truth, because I think I'm pretty up to speed on what's going on in town currently. So I guess I'll shorten my answer and say, I don't think I have a huge one. It's more getting the public in to communicate with us.
Okay, great. Thanks, Katie. Len?
Yeah. Well, having been on the board before, I'm pretty well knowledgeable of what the powers of the board are, what the limitations of the board are, the operations of the board. So I don't think there's too much learning curve there. As far as the issues that are going on in town, I'm still, I am involved in town government now, so I'm familiar with a good deal of the issues that have been going on for years. So, I mean, there's always new issues that occur in any given year. So there's always a little bit of a learning curve for anybody, even somebody that's an incumbent on the board because of a new issue. But as far as like actually being on the board itself, I really, I would actually be ready to start from the ground running.
All right. Thank you, Len. And Alex?
Yes, I believe I'd be ready to start from the ground running as well. So I think that there is a learning curve, but I've already begun to attack that. So I've watched every single select board meeting and a large number of the other board meetings that are available on YouTube dating back to late 2019 now. It was fun to watch it, the old ones when the pandemic happened. But I think that there's a learning curve, but I think that from what people probably have seen through social media, through my outreach to people, I don't mind asking for help. I don't mind going out and reaching out to people. So I would love advice from people. I would love mentorship. And at the end of the day, it's about making the decision that's best for the town, for everybody within the town. And I believe that I can do that. I think that from week to week, from month to month at the select board meetings, you have to make decisions on a wide ranging variety of topics. And my career has prepared me for that. So I spent the bulk of my career selling and marketing curriculum solutions for Pearson Education and Cengage Learning. I would need to legitimately learn curriculum for college level courses in a week to make a proposal, to sell human development to Boston University, to sell philosophy curriculum to Boston College, to engineering to the University of Rhode Island. That is difficult, and I know that I can do it. I know that I can digest information in a quick fashion and make decisions based off of it. So I'm ready to hit the ground running. I'm a blank slate. Would love anybody's help and advice throughout this, but at the end of the day, have everybody's best interests in mind. Thanks.
Thanks, Alex. Okay, I'm going to switch back to the pre-submitted questions, and then I do see another one up on YouTube. I can't see any on Facebook, Jonathan, so I'll leave that in your hands, but let's go back to the pre-submitted questions. Somebody asked, how can a select board set policy priorities when local government decision-making is decentralized among dozens of volunteer boards, committees, and departments? What would your top 3 policy priorities be? Okay, and we are going to start with Katie.
That's an interesting question. Policy of how we look at problems that come in and whether we put issues out to the different departments with questions. It's sort of a hard thing to do unless you have a set format when a problem comes in. If it has to go, for example, if it was a special permit that's coming in and it's an issue that involves, I'm going to use water as an example because it's the one that popped into my head first. You'd want to know how that affects every department. So you'd want questions that are consistent, that are already pre-written, that go to each board and can come back in a timely manner so they know what's happening in that situation. So if they have an issue, for example, Board of Health has an issue, they can address what their issue might be. Planning board may have another concern with the same thing. Conservation may have another. The building department may have another. The highway department may have an issue with how things are set up, and police and fire might. And you want to get input from each department. So is that basically answering the policy question? I do think communication is critical.
All right, great. Thank you. Len?
Yeah. Again, I think this goes back to the point that I was making earlier about the importance of having joint boards meetings again, because there are different boards with different perspectives, and to have a joint meeting where you can get a consensus of what those priorities would be would help solve the problem of having so many different boards with so many different issues. I mean, I can certainly, looking at the towns, come up with 3 key issues that I think are very important. I think I might have mentioned them earlier. Fiscal responsibility, trying to solve the water problem in Lower Village, trying to maintain a rural town, at the same time bring in some small businesses that would, be give some more consumer choices to people, and at the same time provide a little extra revenue. I mean, those are 3 issues that I think are important. But in terms of like getting everybody on board, I think having joint boards meeting and getting all the different concerns and issues from all the different boards together so that we can work in unison, I think would be important as well.
Okay, thank you. Alex?
Yes, I agree. I believe that communication and vision are the two major issues at hand here. We need to come together, all boards, all members of the town, and have a clear vision, a clear plan, a clear idea of what we would like this town to be, what we would like the town, a successful town, vision to look like. Once we have that, I think that the Stow Select Board could shape policy in order to bring that to fruition. I also think that we could take ideas from a standpoint of being able to reward accomplishments. So if there's when we're making a decision, if everything is equal, if we take a look at the lower board, if we take a look at a decision, and if everything else is equal, if one of the boards has already accomplished something and they've come in under budget, maybe we reward that. I think that we need to make sure that our budget is being handled responsibly, and the goals are being accomplished. If we spend money and something is not accomplished, we need to know why. So I think, right off the bat, let's get a goal in mind. Let's get a vision for the town. Let's work through communication. And then from there, let's reward accomplishment.
All right. Thank you, Alex. All right, Courtney. Do you need me to repeat the question? Because it's been a while.
I would love it. Thank you.
Okay. How can a select board set policy priorities when local government decision-making is decentralized among dozens of volunteer boards, committees, and departments? And what would your top 3 policy priorities be?
So just want to comment on the decentralized part of the question, which is that I think there's a mention of this, that there's a way in a sort of top-down fashion that we can set a tone on the select board by behaving a certain way, but also by setting policy in a particular way. And then other boards and committees can follow the tone of our policy making. So thereby we affect policy making in boards and committees where we don't actually dabble or meddle or get involved in their affairs. So I think it's pretty important that we set policy on the tone of the town, on equitable decisions, on decent behavior amongst ourselves. So last year we actually found ourselves having a civil debate policy, just a little reminder in the select board. And I think those types of policies actually go a long way. So you can't really mandate collaborative behavior, but I think I'm not going to have a good example. My answer is that by example, we would set a type of policy that, you know, I really believe in our having a civil tone in town and not being polarized around issues where we disagree. Some of my best experiences in town government thus far have been working with people that I didn't agree with, and coming to some kind of consensus or some way through.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you, Courtney. All right, and there's one other question. Jonathan, I don't know if you can put this one up on it. I'm looking at the YouTube channel, and it is from Briar Biddle, and she asks, how can we ensure that the board is bringing equity and social justice to the forefront of their decisions?
Yep.
And Len will be the first up on that.
Okay. Well, that can take many aspects. Certainly, in terms of our appointments, that we appoint people that are, that have the interest and qualifications, but also come from diverse backgrounds to serve on various appointments. So I think, in terms of the people who serve, encouraging people from different backgrounds to volunteer for town government, I think is another way to have diversity and equity. And I think that just in terms of the policies that we enact, that they be done fairly, that they be done without discrimination, and that they be done in such a way as to create as much opportunity for people to be beneficial of any program that we offer. So I think that's the best way is to as Courtney I think mentioned also, is set a tone and lead by example. So I think those are the best ways that we can achieve those results.
All right, thank you, Len. Alex?
Yes, I think from a town government standpoint, I think that what we need to do is ensure fairness, ensure that everybody has a say and has a voice and has a chance to participate, whether it's in the local government or within businesses within the town. But I think that we do need to lead from example and be prepared to help communicate that we are a town that is very receptive to all backgrounds. I think that there are a large number of openings, or not large, but there are openings in businesses in the lower village. I think when we look to bring in businesses, we want to bring in the best businesses. But at the end of the day, it's a talent acquisition situation, and I believe that we can bring diverse backgrounds in. Personally, I I view my church, my sanctuary, as Uppercuts Boxing Gym in Ashland, Massachusetts, owned by an African American man who has built his way up. I would love to do something to be able to, attract businesses like that, attract businesses in town where people are receptive. And I think in order to do that, we need to make sure that we are out here providing a situation where people of all backgrounds are seeing different backgrounds. So if we can attract more residents of different backgrounds, however we can do that, I think through communication, through vision, then we need to do so.
All right. Thank you, Alex. Courtney?
So I think the way to bring equity and social justice into our decisions is to be transparent and to be accountable. So there've been, over the last year or so, I guess there've been changes to the open meeting law, and there are more and more requirements of how the proceedings. There's always been the requirement that we have minutes and that we have, a public attendance at meetings, and that our meetings are in a space that's accessible to all, that all are welcome. But I think that the piece about being accountable is that there may be a conversation where somebody says, well, hey, we would like attention. This particular group, or these individuals would like attention from the board. And we need to respond. So that isn't always easy in the framework of the meeting structure and the agenda structure and how the board gets information and how we make decisions. So I think it's that process of transparency. I love having the Zoom hybrid opportunity for meetings so that folks can join in a meeting. And I think what that does is it makes more, I believe it encourages equity and social justice through the accessibility of our decision-making process.
Right. Thank you, Courtney. Katie?
I think everything's been covered fairly well, but I think social justice is so important that we keep our arms open to welcome everyone into the community. I have to handle a lot of those issues with my business, and it's very important we treat everybody the same, and listen to people if there's something we're missing. So if there's a select board meeting, for example, and they want to do a tribute, I'm trying to think, to a group. I'm going to use something that's arbitrary, just for children of all backgrounds with arts and such. So we incorporate everything in, not just one background that's customary, like Christmas, Hanukkah were the big issues years ago. But there's people from all over the world and different backgrounds and beliefs and preferences. We need to incorporate them all and treat them all the same and welcome them. No discrimination is just the biggest thing I want to say.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you, Kate. All right, Jonathan, do you want to grab the next question? I'm going to.
All right. This is from Laura Diamond. She emailed it to me. She's wondering what each candidate's plan would be to evaluate PFAS in our wells and then remediate it when found. Where should that funding come from? She's especially concerned because she lives 2 miles from the Firefighters Academy where high levels were found. I can copy it and keep it up, I guess.
Okay, Alex, I think you're first up on this one.
Right. I think that what we need to do is evaluate the situation, and if there are many issues, if there are many contaminations, found in the wells, then what we need to do is take a look at and see what we can do to remediate, whether it's providing funding through loans and bonds, or coming up with solutions so that we are not completely taking on the cost, but looking for unique ways of fixing it. Taking a look to see if there's any federal or state level funding for these types of projects. I think what we need to do is find out right now, if there are, the issues with the wells, especially in those areas that they're talking about. I believe there's studies going on right now. So let's find out and then take it from there and get a wide variety of options on the table and make the decisions that will be best for everybody in town, but keeping the safety of those individuals who are impacted at heart.
All right. Thanks, Alex. Courtney?
So I believe we're working currently with DEP on identifying the sources and the extent of PFAS contamination in a couple of locations in town, the fire station and the fire academy, the old fire station rather, and the fire academy. And my understanding is that the town will be on the hook for some costs, some remediation costs, I believe, associated with the old fire station. So then the question is, how will we fund that? And I believe, again, that there may be the ability to get some government funding, some outside funding help on that. We may be, I think we actually committed some of the ARPA funding that we've received to go toward PFAS remediation, or toward, it's a fairly complex process. We have to have consultants, good old consultants, who know a lot that we don't know. So I believe that there's some costs associated with that, with the old fire station. So it's a process, and I think our town administrator is really great with this. This is part of in essence, her job to work with these entities and also then to figure out funding, and I have great faith in her.
All right, thank you. All right, Miss Katie.
Yeah, this is an issue I've spent a lot of time on the last few years. I've had a lot of houses that have been tested. So currently the Board of Health is redoing the regulations for private wells, and they're considering making a list of the properties that now have tested positive for those neighborhoods requiring testing before something transfers. But the DEP is involved, the Board of Health's involved. There's been some funding for people to test, but nothing that I know of that pays for remediation unless it's in the town center where it was around the firehouse. So it's a complex issue that there's 3 groups actually looking at right now. And the state is looking at finding a program for funding for low income or low cost loans, which is in process. I just found out a little bit more about that this week. The next meeting for the Board of Health is going to review a lot of those details, I believe. So there's a lot of people working on it, and I wish I had an answer.
Yeah. All right, thank you. And next up is Len.
Yeah. Well, water safety, water and air safety are 2 most important vital components of any human existence. And so, this does need to get priority. I think it's a 3-step process. Right now we're in phase 1, which is, testing to find out the extent of the problem. The second phase is to get whatever outside funding we can possibly get. And then the third step will be for us to have to come up with some kind of funding mechanism ourselves. And I think all 3 steps are important because water safety is important. And as we're seeing, it's not just in any one area. It potentially can be in a number of areas. So we need to be cognizant of that and do something about solving the problem.
All right. Thank you, Len. Okay, I'm going to do another question that was submitted ahead of time. This was submitted by a Stow resident, somebody who's lived in town for a long time and lives near the Lower Village. We've sort of touched base on the Lower Village issues. She has, she brings up some issues in terms of the vacant storefronts, the property, the gas station property that has been vacant, Papagino's. She comments that when walking on the sidewalk near the septic system shed of Shaw's, there is an unpleasant smell in the air. And she also laments the departure of Emma's, being forced to shut its doors primarily because of water issues, is what she's saying. And she felt that that provided one place in Stow where people of all ages could go and meet and have a meal, and that it provided a sense of community. So the question is, there's the background. The question is, what specific steps and actions can you take to re-energize this area of town that lacks vitality and a sense of community? It is the first place you encounter as you enter our town from the east. It is our welcome to Stow entrance. So boiling it down, what steps are you willing to take, or would you take to re-energize and vitalize the Lower Village? And Jonathan's going to take it away for 1 second. Jonathan?
Courtney, you are the first to answer, please.
Okay. This is, it's a great question. So I think, taking a page from Lenny's book, this is an opportunity for joint boards collaboration. I know the planning board, so rather a long-term approach to this question is that the planning board is looking at the zoning definitions in Lower Village and working to make the zoning reflect what we would like to see there in order to encourage the type of businesses that we would like to see in the future. And we do not have a great deal of control over the plaza because it's in corporate ownership. It has its own water system and septic. I mean, we obviously Board of Health rules apply. In the short term, it's a little complex to address this. I feel like a priority for me, the next step is to get conversations going about developing water service for the south side of 117. There is water for the plaza on the north side. I believe it's an infrastructure, a delivery problem in the case of Emma's. And I believe that the owner of the property or the owner of the buildings is meant to be working on that. So this is a place where if I were asking this question, I would feel impatient with an answer that says the wheels of government turn slowly. But my experience and my understanding is that that's part of where we are. I don't think putting up holiday lights is going to help us feel a lot better. So to me, careful planning and collaboration among the boards, envisioning of where, I think it's a great place for community involvement to speak out and say, hey, the kind of thing I want to see is Nans in the plaza, the Nans feel, throughout the south side of 117. And I think there are things in process that will help over time.
Okay, the next person to answer would be Katie, please.
Well, I think it's really important that we keep. I moved to the lower village because of all the things that were supposed to be improved 18 years ago. And I say a like attracts like. So if you have businesses that don't belong, that are loud, and the tank is a good example that's being removed, I understand, from the select board meeting last night. Businesses want to be near businesses that are like them or attract other clientele that's similar to them. And with all the changes with COVID, I was talking to a group of people that thought, oh, it'd be wonderful to have a cafe where you could go at lunch and work. So Papagino's would be a good example of that space. If we could find a collaborative group to take over the rent in a space like that, it might bring more people in. But the government really can't make those things happen because all those properties are independently owned, and almost all the businesses are owned by out-of-town entities or corporations or investment people. So it's really hard to have control over them unless we can find incentives to get local businesses to rent from them. And the rents are pretty high. It's so I'm not sure, other than making the lower village look more attractive by what we can do at the street, I'm not sure what else we can do in government.
Thank you. Lenny?
Yeah. Well, first of all, in terms of why these things happen, there is varied as the stores that leave. I've talked to store owners and I've talked to the ones that have left, and the reasons vary. The owner of Emma's left because of the problems in terms of flow traffic because of COVID. Years earlier, there was a dollar store that left because he couldn't compete with the dollar store in Hudson. There was a woman that had a home improvement store next to where Papagino's used to be. She left because she needed truck deliveries, and that was a problem for people that were living in the neighborhood. And the problem with the gas station right now is it's got hazardous waste, so nothing can be done with it at the moment. So the reasons are varied, but the solutions really do require some kind of joint board type activity. The planning board has been very active. I was on the board where we were developing design studies. I mean, ideally, if we could create the ideal set of architectural stores in that village, one, somebody mentioned Nan's. The other one is, I would mention the building that's the post office. Those two buildings are the kinds of look that we would like to see in that part, in the lower village. So the planning board can set the architectural standards, which it's doing. The Economic Development Commission can try to encourage businesses to come in. The select board can try to get the business owners together to try to see if they'd be willing to collaborate on a water source. So I think this kind of combined activity is what's needed, because even though it's a small amount of acreage, the problems are diverse.
Thank you. And Alex, you are last.
Yeah, so I think everything that's been mentioned is great, and we need to take a look at various zoning laws. We need to collaborate with the different boards. But really what I think that we need to do is open up lines of communication with the business owners and with the owners of the buildings. And I believe we need to have a collaborative effort from all of the boards with those owners of the businesses and owners of the properties to really understand what they need in order to be successful. And then we need to also speak with our residents and find out what kinds of businesses they would like to see there, what types of businesses they would support there, and bring that information and go on a mission to bring those types of businesses in so that they can be successful in the long term. But really what I would like to instill in everyone is that we need to do something. We need to work and we need action. We do not need to look into things and just talk. We need to really get things done. And I think that we can. And that starts with communication and a vision, and then going forward with specific actions. And I think that we can get it done. And just one final note, I know that, as Lenny was saying, there's many reasons why certain businesses have left. I think that the town government really should play a better part in respecting and going forward, supporting our local businesses. I think that we need to really do a debrief and find out why exactly Andrew and Emma's left. Was it the water? Was it due to COVID? Or was there some sort of issue with a tax situation in which there was a dispute? We don't know. I think that, we have posts on Nextdoor going viral about the water. And if it's the water, then we need to address it. But we need to get to the bottom of the true reason, why that business left, and really move forward and make sure that doesn't happen again. Thanks.
Thank you. Before we go too much further, Morgan had this question. She asks how many additional seats are currently filled and how many are serving on the select?
There's 5 on the board.
5 on the board, and there are 4 currently filled.
There's 2 positions that are open for election at this election, and then there'll be a special election for another board member.
Yeah, for Zach's seat.
Whoops. Get rid of that one.
All right. And Jonathan, I don't see any other questions on the YouTube. Do you see anything on Facebook?
I do not. I think we've hit pretty much everybody who's had a question.
Okay, great. I have one more. Do you anticipate having to recuse yourself for any select board discussions or votes due to a conflict of interest? And we will start with Katie.
Right now, I really don't. The select board's more of a policy-making board. When it comes to licenses, however, my abutter, if they come forward for a license, I'm going to recuse myself. Otherwise, I don't overlap in many areas. The select board is unusual for my business in that it doesn't. I worry at times like Board of Health would be a problem for me because I interact with the public on a health basis quite often with wells and septic systems. But policy itself for guidelines, I don't really see an issue.
Okay, thank you. Len?
Well, I just want to point out, in terms of potential conflicts of interest, it's not just business licenses, it's also any potential litigation can also be conflict of interest as well. So it isn't just a matter of licenses. As far as myself, no, I don't see myself having any conflicts of interest that I'd have to recuse myself. But I will say, you never know. I was on the board for 6 years, and sometimes something can come up, and when that does come up, you do recuse yourself. I was on when I was on the planning board. Whenever they were dealing with an issue involving Bose, which was diagonally across the street from me. I'm not even sure if they were actually in a butter. I tried to measure the 300 feet. I erred on the side of caution. So anything dealing with Bose, I just recused myself. But you have to be scrupulous about that. At the moment, I don't see any conflicts of interest for myself. But if I saw one, I would certainly recuse myself.
Thank you, Len. Alex?
In short, no, I do not. But if the finance committee, if people who run finances want to take a look at how they get their data out of their ERP to do their financial reporting to speed that process up, then I will recuse myself, as I work for Insight Software, and we have the best software to be able to get access to your data from your ERP. Thank you.
Thanks for that plug, Alex. Courtney?
Again, on the select board, I think I may not see any conflicts of interest. I am an abutter to the recent Regency development on Boxborough Road. So when I was on the Conservation Commission, I would recuse myself there. I don't believe I have any conflicts of interest.
All right. Thank you, Courtney. Okay, and I think that's going to be it for our submitted questions.
We have one more.
Oh, okay, Jonathan.
One more about Briar Biddle. The subject of equity: is the town willing to find a way to offer childcare so young families can participate in town meeting equitably?
Okay, and first up on that question would be Len.
Child care and for town meetings, was that the question?
Yes. Is the town willing to find a way to offer child care so that young families can participate in town meeting?
Well, I don't know that the town could actually set up a daycare center, but I know what we've done in the past and what other towns have done is people have offered to do some kind of babysitting, at the town hall during a meeting. And since our town meetings now are going to be on Saturdays, during the mornings and afternoons, I think that would facilitate that kind of situation easier than it would be, say, if it was late at night. So, that's something we could do in terms of, offering, if people would be willing to do some kind of babysitting, maybe joint babysitting amongst parents. That's something that we could try to facilitate, but I would not want to see the town. I don't think the question was intended that the town would set up a daycare center. I don't think we can do that, but we can certainly encourage a kind of voluntary group of cooperative daycare for people, especially now with Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon town meetings.
All right, thank you. Alex?
Yes, so I believe that participation is the core of democracy. And in order to have a functioning democracy, we need participation. And if there are roadblocks, we need to make sure that those roadblocks are taken down. And with the number of young families that we have in this town, I believe that, being able to find a solution for young families to come to the town meeting and participate is crucial. There are, I believe there are close to 50 or over 50 articles at this upcoming town meeting. It will be long. And in order to sit through that, young families are going to have to decide whether they are hiring a babysitter or bringing the child to the town meeting and having them sit there. It is a daunting task. So I think that the town can come together and come up with creative solutions. I believe the idea of coming and doing some sort of joint babysitting situation would, there might be a unique solution there. I believe that what we are running into right now with young families is a situation where people would like to help out and help people in that manner. But in today's day and age, there are just, litigation issues. You don't want to be liable. So I believe that, if the town can come in and, provide some sort of, infrastructure in terms of, legal help with the situation to ensure that nothing would happen, or, put a officer on duty in that area, then, maybe we can do something, or open up the town meeting outside and put a large screen so that it's not just inside, we open it up. But I think there's unique solutions out there, and I would express to the current select board and everybody within the town to really reach out to your neighbors, reach out to everyone, and try to get them to participate, because that is how we can grow Stow and make it continue to be this beautiful town that we love.
Thanks, Alex. Courtney?
So I agree that participation makes our government happen, and it's absolutely key. And I always find it incredibly exciting to get new voices in the room. It's fun to hang with my buddies, but I want to hear new ideas. That's what keeps me young and alive. So the trick is, as was mentioned, there's liability concerns, and also, from a budgetary standpoint, during COVID, we had an outdoor element to the town meeting, which was really great in some ways. Ask Jonathan. I think it was kind of a handful technologically.
Oh, yeah.
So, cost-wise, it's a challenge. For instance, we're having town meeting at Hale School this year because center school doesn't hold as many people indoors. Hale doesn't have a great place to do an outdoor element to the town meeting. So our facilities don't, we're still trying to figure out how to accomplish this best. Looks like we're going to have a new moderator who I think will look into this and further, and probably it's one of the things to work on going forward. I think we have a building nearby the places where we tend to have town meeting, which is our old town hall. It's a nice open space. I think it would probably be fairly suitable for childcare, and I think a group of inspired individuals could set this up. Again, our town administrator is actually kind of more in charge of the finances and the budget, and so she would be the one to authorize spending directly for childcare, and so she would be the one to ask directly. But it would be a good start to use a local space that's very close to where the meetings are, and establish a group of perhaps young people that would be babysitters in other settings, who were certified. I think there used to be a babysitting certification. So I see this more as a grassroots effort, and I thoroughly encourage it.
Okay.
I'm not sure we have a government solution.
Thanks, Courtney. Katie?
I actually agree with Courtney. The liability is huge if the town took it on, because who do you hire? And it's just a very complicated process. So volunteers is a much better route. I remember having a problem going to the evening meetings with small children. And sometimes we'd switch off, only one of us could go, and it was me. But it's very hard. And I think Saturdays are even harder for families, young families, because there's a lot more other obligations this time of year. So it really is a problem if you can't get daycare and the schedule. So I appreciate the problem. I'm not sure how we can come to a solution with babysitting. It's just a very broad, complicated topic. I don't know if there's a group in town that would want to take it on a volunteer basis.
Thank you, Katie.
I'd like to add something ad hoc, if I might, just a quick comment. I think participating in town government is our right, and it's also our choice. So we volunteers give up other things in order to participate in town government, and we each of us as citizens have some kind of choice in whether we show up at town meeting or not, and we might have to forego some other thing that seems really important. I mean, work would not be a good example, but other parts of our lives, we might have to give up a soccer game, but that's part of the choices that we make when we want to participate in the government process.
Thanks, Courtney. Okay, I think at this point we're almost at 9 o'clock. We still need to hear from Linda, and we still need to do our closings. So I'm going to have, we're going to go in reverse order of introductions. We'll start with Alex for the closings. Please keep it to 2 minutes so we can get Linda on here and we can get everything wrapped up. All right, thank you, Alex.
Yeah, I just want to thank you again, Cindy, and thank you, Jonathan, for putting this on. I think that this is an amazing opportunity for all of the candidates here to showcase their views and what they bring to the table. I personally, I've learned a lot from everything that everybody said, but I believe that I am qualified to bring change to this town, to bring a new mindset to this town, which is action. I think that we can come together as a town and put together a master plan that is outdated currently. As stated in the charter, it needs to be updated every 5 years. It has not been. So we need to come together, put together a master plan, use that as a business plan, take it as a vision, and go forward with actions that will help us achieve our common goals. I've spent the past 10 years in sales and marketing roles, and I can guarantee you, unless there's other people in town that are in tech sales, nobody has been told no more than me. So when somebody says that things are just the way they are, that's what excites me. I convinced professors to go from textbooks to online homework systems, and that is very difficult. People can say no. So I am really, when I think of what I am best at, is being an agent of change, to bring progress, to bring new ideas to the table and see them to fruition. And I want to be a voice for everyone. We have 5 members on the select board. The idea behind that is to bring diverse and different ideas to the table. I believe that is what I can do, being a young parent, being new, having grown up out of state. I come here with a unique business background. I think that I can bring new ideas, and I think that I can really shape my ideas and bring them to action. So I would really appreciate all of your support. I am an open book. My information is out there. You can reach me on various social media pages. You can visit my campaign site, letsgostow.com, to get my email address or my phone number. I would love all of the feedback that anybody could provide to me, so that I could be in a position to enter the board and be successful right away. And just thank you again for all of your time, and we'll see everybody at the meeting. And if you see me around town, I wear these wacky orange glasses. I got a pair of wacky green glasses, and I'm biased, but I got the cutest little 1-year-old in town. So walking around with a baby and weird glasses, that's me. Say hi.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, and where are we going? To Len.
Oh, good. Well, thank you, Jonathan, for doing this with Stow TV, and thank you, Cindy, for doing this with the Stow Independent and giving us this opportunity. Thank everybody for their listening, and thank the other candidates for participating. Over 32 years ago, actually, I moved to Stow and raised a family here, maintained a law practice here. And why I moved here, I saw something very special in this town, very unique. You know, we're a small town with a rural character. It's not very far from the metropolis of Greater Boston. That's very unique in this state, and it's very unique in a lot of places in this country. We do face some challenges. There's no question. We always will. And one of the things is, we're such a desirable place to live. A lot of people want to live here. So how do we meet that challenge of welcoming people and at the same time maintain our small town rural character? That's one of the major challenges that I see. Another thing is, as more people move in, they want more projects. If we're going to do more projects, we have to do them in a fiscally responsible way, so that, like I say, we don't have like the frog that's going right through the boa constrictor. So budgeting has to be done in a very sensible, stable way to be fiscally responsible. Another challenge, well, I hate to bring this up, but you never know when we're going to face another crisis like we have for the past 2 years. So I think it's important to have experienced leadership that knows how to do crisis management. And then of course, there's the future challenges. Somebody brought it up about how does the local community deal with the local problems involving climate change as well. So there are these, and there's other challenges that we'll face in the future. And I believe it's important to have innovation, but also to have experience. And I think, somebody can have experience and still be innovative as well. And with my 30 years of experience in town government, my varied background in working in both the public and the private sector, I feel I can bring to this office, once again, a knowledge of the past, an understanding of the present, and a vision for the future. And I'm certainly very I always welcome input. My email address, leonardhgolder@yahoo.com. I'm also on Facebook. I'm familiar with social media, so you can access me that way as well. I always love to hear input, and I appreciate you considering voting for me in the town election. Thank you.
Thanks, Len. Okay, next up, Katie.
Yes. Again, I'd like to thank both of you. The Stow Independent actually started the same time I started my business, and they've been a great resource. And I really appreciate you putting the time out, and Stow TV for sponsoring this as well. I think I bring to the table probably contact with all types of people and other communities. So I see the world from a financial background, running a business, from budgeting, and I've seen so many ups and downs in the economy, and I worry about not having long-term plans in place. So I think it's really important that we have a master plan, but it's also important that we look at what we do and how it impacts us over a number of years, having seen so many changes. So our world has changed so much, and I do think we need to reach out, do a survey of our current residents, young, old, and in between, and what their needs are and the way they want to see our world in the future in a comprehensive master plan. So I do ask for your vote. I have experience in all areas of the town government and working with other communities. So I definitely see the world a little differently than everyone else who's been on the. I also really appreciate everyone who's running, because everyone that's come forward offers a different perspective. And it's too bad we all can't be on the board together. And I ask for your vote, and thank you.
Thanks, Katie. All right, and last we have Courtney. You're up.
Me too. I'm going to thank you, Cindy and Jonathan, for making this possible. You've done a great job making us visible, and that's really helpful. As an incumbent, I'd love to stay on the board and keep spending my every other Tuesday night hashing things out and seeing what we can get done. Honestly, I feel like having built on, I started in the Conservation Commission. I also was then on the Community Preservation Committee at the same time. My passion, back then was wide open spaces and the outdoors, and I came from this family history of land conservation. As a builder, I read plans anyway, but I got the expansion of permitting through the Conservation Commission. I think that as a builder and an artist, that's where I get this need to collaborate, and it's actually more difficult than working alone, but it brings the rewards of the synergy of people working together. And we're so lucky to have incredible volunteers and staff in our town government, and I'd like to stay a part of that. I think we do have a bunch of challenges coming forward. I think that as we look at a new school coming in, perhaps, and other high cost projects, we will be struggling to balance the financial burden in town. At the same time, we always have to strive to do better. I think the Economic Development Committee could perhaps use Alex's expertise to revitalize our business community and get people excited again. I hope that's part of the conversations that will come up around the Lower Village water exploration. There's a lot to to do and to be excited about. And I enjoy this. I have this ad hoc way of speaking, and it's how I've approached it in my participation. I like to listen, and then I kind of speak from the heart. But I would love to have your vote. I would love to continue on the select board. And I thank you all for listening. I hope we have a banner participation in town meeting on the May 14th and a great turnout at the polls on May 21st. I'd be
All
happy
right.
to get your vote.
Great. Thank you, Courtney. And speaking of the polls and voting and town meetings, our last item on the agenda is our town clerk, Miss Linda Hathaway, and we welcome her. And take it away, Linda.
Oh, great. Thank you for everybody for participating tonight, and for Cindy and Jonathan for putting it all together. This has been a great help, and I hope a lot of people who didn't get a chance to visit tonight will go on YouTube or Facebook or Stow TV and watch it there. Town meeting is, of course, on May 14th. It starts at 9 a.m. We'll be ready to do check-in at 8. Our main venue will be the auditorium. There'll be check-in in the cafeteria. And there's the outside component for those who still are concerned about COVID and social distancing and want to stay outside. We will be set up like we were in October, right outside the auditorium doors. There'll be speakers that will be outside broadcasting so everybody can hear outside. I do expect it to be a long day. So bring water, bring snacks. I think last year we went 5 hours. We have about the same number of warrant articles, but I understand that, we're going to try to move it along quickly. So just be prepared. The election is on the 21st. That'll be at Center School. We'll be using the gym and cafeteria area like normal. The polls are open 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And just to remind everybody, there is another housing authority position on the ballot. That is, it's an unexpired term expiring in 2026, and there were no candidates running for that. So that's right in. Abby Morgan is running for the other seat, which I think expires in 2024. If you can't make it to the polls 10 to 4, Abby the applications are online. We have them on the website. You can get them. It has to be filled out. We can mail them to you if we have these applications 4 days prior, minimum of 4 days prior to the election. If you know you're going to be out of town, get it to us as soon as possible. Ballots will be in. We should have them in next week. And then as soon as we have applications, we're mailing them out. We do have an in-person ability to do that for people who are, find out at the last minute that they can't get it mailed to them. You can come here and vote in person. It's very different from the last 2 years. You have to have a reason to have an absentee ballot, meaning you're either away out of town during the polling hours and can't get to the polls due to a physical disability or a religious belief. It's not like the last elections where you just don't want to show up at the polls. Anyway, so that's that piece. And I am expecting that the third open seat on the select board will be voted on at the primary. The date of the primary, we'll have a dual election. We'll have a town election and the state primary all on September 6th. I think that's what we're leaning towards. The select board obviously will make that decision. And again, thank you. I look forward to seeing you. I'm expecting about 350 people at town meeting, about 1,800 at the polls. Let's get out there and vote, and I'll see you. Oh, and don't forget, there is a ballot question on the on the ballot for the library bonding. So that kind of takes us an overall view. If you have any questions, you can certainly call us. Lots of information on the town clerk's website. There's also a tab with town meeting and election stuff. Look there too. Okay?
All
Any
right.
questions?
All set. Thank you so much, Linda.
Sure. Thank you for all for participating. I love a contested race. These are the most candidates I've had in 22 years. I've never had 5 candidates running for positions.
I know. I wish Ingeborg had been able to join tonight. Unfortunately, she couldn't, but I'm sure she'll follow up with some kind of letter or something into the paper. So, yeah, this is great. It is. It's great. It's great. Thank you all for taking the time to be here, for answering questions. I'm sure you all have somewhere else you'd rather be right now. So I think we should probably let you go there. Jonathan, thank you for your constant technical expertise that we would.
Well, we had enough glitches to keep it fun.
Yes, it's important.
Amusing at times, but I think it worked out really well, and I think we got a lot of information out, a lot of feeling for who the candidates are, which is great. Really nice.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I guess we're going to sign off. If anyone has anything else to say, write a letter to the editor.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good night.
Thanks, Cindy. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you. Ugh.